Today my guest is Michael Eaton. How you doing, Michael?
Hey, good.
Welcome back to the show.
Thanks.
We're talking today about software estimation.
Yep.
You've got a lot of strong opinions about this.
I do.
Tell me what's just define estimation as opposed to random wild guesses. I guess.
Dictionary definition of estimation is it's a tentative evaluation, preliminary estimation or number as well. And 9 times out of 10, when our bosses, our customers ask us for an estimate, they're not looking for a tentative number or a preliminary number. Those terms sound like I can change them. If it's preliminary, I should be able to change it, and that's typically not what we're asked for. We're asked for some concrete numbers that they typically etch in a stone tablet.
We're going to be held to those numbers because they're going to set prices against those numbers. They're going to set schedules against those numbers, and we're basically committing ourselves to live to those numbers once they've actually been spoken.
Yeah, whether it's right or wrong, that's what ends up happening.
All right. And I heard you say that as an industry, we software developers and project managers and customers and managers and so on, that we're just not very good at software estimation.
No.
Is that a fair statement?
That's definitely a fair statement. I want to say that the average cost overrun is 40-some%, and time overrun is in that same ballpark. So we're not, this is an industry we're just not good at coming in on time and on budget.
Why not? Why are we so bad at this?
I think there's a lot of things that play into it, and a lot of my talk is individually what we can, what our problems are and what we can do.
We being the developers.
We being the developers. A lot of times, we're overconfident. Everyone wants to think they can just do it, right?
Because we're Chuck Norris.
Because we're Chuck Norris. We can do this. Of course, I can do this in an hour.
Yeah.
And 6-7 hours later, you're still working on it. We're overconfident. We don't have the kinds of detailed requirements that we need. We have vague requirements they're missing. A lot of times, we just work in chaotic environments where you just kind of thrown to the wolves and expected to do stuff. There are numerous things that I talk about of why we're bad, but I think the big ones are there's not enough communication.
Communication between
everyone. I think just in general, people don't speak up enough. People don't fight the good fight. They it's the status quo. This is what I was told to do, and this is what I'm going to do, and I don't want to make waves, and we just as a consultant, I'm very open and direct with my customers. Of this, I can or can't do this.
So that communication sometimes comes in the form of a customer or a salesperson telling us the answer they want to hear.
Absolutely, that happens a lot.
It's hard not to give an answer somebody wants to hear. They've already told it to you.
Yeah. I've had customers say, "We need an estimate, but this is our budget." So, your choices are give them the true estimate, which is probably going to be above their budget, or make it fit. And a lot of times, you want the job, so you make it fit.
Yeah. So if you overestimate, you're just going to lose the work.
Right.
So there's some consequences to that.
Right.
And if you underestimate, then you'll probably lose money yourself, or you'll end up finishing the project by heroic efforts.
Absolutely, and that's fine to do every now and then. But when you do it over and over and over again, and you're working insane hours, and there's this. Some of us have families. Right? We want to spend time with them, and not behind our computer working on something that was undersold to begin with.
Well, we talked. Software development often brings up the triangle, the
time, resources,
and money. And you can change 2 of those, but you can't change all 3. There's pressure sometimes to not change any of those 3.
Right.
But you can if somebody says, "I need this in 2 weeks." Okay, well that's fine, but it'll be very expensive, or you need to cut some features, or
it's the learning how to negotiate, and it's all about scope. It's about scope. If they need something by a certain day, well, we need to set the scope so we can do it by that day. But we can't give you everything. And I talk about giving ranges for estimates of best case, worst case, and how the best case is sunshine and rainbows and unicorns coming down to help you write your code. But worst case is, we don't get the data in time, or someone gets sick, or someone gets pulled from the team to go do something else. And so, it's tough. Estimation is tough. I think that most of us underestimate. Through the times I've given this talk, I've never had people say they overestimate.
We underestimate the time it's going to take.
The time it's going to take us to do a task.
Okay.
Yes. And then a lot of times what happens is, those numbers bubble up and they get cut. And then so, by the time it gets to the person writing the check or the person keeping track, we're way under what it actually turns out being.
So that's a pretty grim analysis situation. What is there hope? What can we do better individually and as an industry to correct this?
Well, a good friend of mine, Corey Haynes, says just don't give estimates at all.
So refuse to give estimates,
So refuse to
even
give
if
estimates,
asked.
even if asked.
I don't know. So that might work fine for your customers, but it probably wouldn't work fine for General Motors, for example.
Right, and it doesn't even work fine for mine. I mean, my customers demand, they want to know. They need to know in the end how long it's going to take and how much it's going to cost. And by me saying, well, let's just do this time and materials, it'll cost what it costs, and it'll be done when it's done, it doesn't fly. So the things I think we can do are definitely open up the lines of communication with our customers, with our bosses. Let them, make them understand what it is we do and educate them. I think that's a big piece. We need to educate.
I think trust is a big piece too.
And trust, absolutely, trust is
huge. You got a relationship already with somebody, and you built that trust up over time. Those conversations are a lot easier to have.
Yeah. And because we've been so bad historically at estimation, there's already this level of distrust anyway. Yeah, and so they don't believe us anyway. So our credibility's shot because we're just not good at it. But some of the things that I suggest we do as individuals, some common sense things, break our tasks down into smaller pieces, estimate our own tasks. I know organizations where someone else estimates the tasks, but we need to estimate our own tasks because the only person that knows how long it's going to take me to do my task is me.
Okay.
And that may or may not be realistic for certain organizations. And there may be times where it's appropriate to estimate someone else's tasks. If you have a fresh guy out of college who doesn't know. But, it helps to know the business. That helps with estimation. Just overall, it's about communication. It's about, giving those ranges. It's better to count than, if you can't count, then you can calculate. And then if you can't calculate something, then you go to your history or your past experience.
So you're talking about actually having some empirical evidence on which to base your estimate.
Absolutely. So I'm a big fan of keeping a log of what my estimate is, what my actual is, what the difference is. That way I can see. I use a tool called Zen, Agile Zen from Nate Kohari that lets me, as long as I'm disciplined about moving my stories, my tasks from phase to phase, when I'm done, then that keeps track of how long something took me. So I can go back and say, I can write my estimate down somewhere, or I can even put it in the story what my estimate is, but then I can actually see the actual because it timestamps things.
So that helps you that if you misestimate something, let's say you underestimate, it ends up taking twice as long as you thought it would. Does that help you next year?
It does.
That you underestimated something a year ago?
Well, so as I go, I get this history built up.
Mm-hmm.
So as the days and weeks and months and years go by, I can go back and look and see, and I can look and go back in my log and say, okay, here's a similar thing.
Okay.
How long did that take me? What did what was my estimate for that? Compare that to what my estimate is for this new thing, and I can look and say, oh, they're about equal, but I underestimated there. So let's adjust a little bit.
Okay.
Keeping the log I think is important. It's about learning from our mistakes.
Yeah, I think that's probably a big weakness that most of us have.
Far too often, we'll get done with a project and say, man, I'm never going to do it that way again.
Sure.
And the project comes along and we end up doing it the same way. So, I also try to keep a journal of those kinds of things, of how projects went. I do that for speaking. When I'm done here, I'm going to go back and write down how this talk went. How engaged the audience was, and those kinds of things, and what I did, what I noticed I was doing. and those kinds of things, and write it down, and I'll learn from it. So next time I give this, I'll know what to change. And it's the same thing with software. I try to keep track of that kind of stuff. Because, you know, the one thing I don't want to do is waste my time or my client's money.
Right.
So everything I can do to make sure that I'm estimating accurately, and that I'm not making the same mistakes over and over. You know, it's better for me, it's better for them.
Okay, so improved communication, better learning from mistakes, keeping track of similar tasks in the past, and going back to review those. Anything else that we can do to improve our own estimation skills?
Well, you know, one of the things that I suggest is taking the things that work and using them. So, you know, one of the examples I use is looking at Agile, and taking what works from there. Look at the smaller, the short iterations, right?
Yeah.
I'd rather fail fast. I'd rather know, you know, within a month, you know, a couple weeks, that my estimates are incorrect, that I made
You can
assumptions.
correct them more quickly.
Yeah, then I can correct them more quickly than waiting 6 months into a project that's scheduled for 8 months and realizing, wow, this is going to be 18 months instead. So, you know, I try to, you know, it's all that kind of plays into it.
Okay, that probably is a little easier on our customers as well, in the long run at least.
Yeah, and it's about delivering business value.
Yeah.
So, you know, if I can deliver things to them faster, then I'll know if I hit the mark sooner rather than later. And again, that all plays into the estimates and the assumptions that we all make, and those kinds of things.
Okay, anything else?
That's about it. I mean, it's an important topic, and you know, one of the reasons that I do this talk is people ask me when they walk in, "Are you going to solve the problem?" No, I'm not going to solve the problem. I want you to think about it. I want to spur thinking. One of the big questions I ask is, the majority of my audiences are almost all, you know, computer science, computer engineering people, and that's what they went to school for. But very rarely do I get anyone that says they actually had classes in software estimation. So our education is lacking. But you know, it's just getting people to think about it. People spend a lot of time working on the latest new code, you know, what's coming from Microsoft, or listening to podcasts or reading blogs, but no one spends any time trying to improve this fundamental skill.
They don't spend enough time, I agree with that. I work for a large consulting company, and we do put a focus on that, on trying to get better at estimating. We spend a lot of time, spend a lot of energy on it. We have seminar type training to try to get better at it, but we still struggle with it because the problem itself is so hard, because it's not, you know, 1 + 2 = 3. It's not a defined answer. It's more art than science.
Right, and yeah, I mean, we're not doing cookie cutter stuff here. Everything is,
Right.
Every project is different. There are
So
common pieces,
a lot
but
of variables, a lot of unknowns.
yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, you know, in the end, we can give estimates, you know, but it's all based on the information we have at the time, and things change, you know, things change day to day.
Sure.
So, well, all we can do is what we can do, and I just want people to think about this topic a little bit more, spend more time trying to, you know, look at themselves and what they do and how they can improve. Sure.
All right. Interesting conversation. Mike, thanks a lot. I
Thanks,
appreciate
Dave.
it.
Thank you. Technology and Friends is my favorite webcast.